Hello.
Hey again, Sid. What's up?
Yeah, what's up? Yes, so we were discussing about a different thing, but I want to dive into that thing again. So we were discussing about there is one thing which I was going to tell you, which is I was doing a research on human DNA patterns, and I got to know it's a well-known knowledge on Google. It's 99.9% DNA of humans are same. Okay, which means we share same ancestry, we share the same parent, same bloodline. But if you go back to the history, uh, the original parent which we came from, like the one Y chromosome and one X chromosome, the male and female, which means we have the similar type of a bloodline. So why we don't have the genetic diseases? So if you talk about, there are multiple communities like Parsi community, and there are more communities, they marry in between, and which created a genetic diseases. So why we don't have the similar thing in humans, as they mentioned on the research? Can you please elaborate that? And we are going to dive according to this in this session. All right.
Got it, Sid. Let's break this down and dive into it. So you're talking about the fact that human DNA is 99.9% identical across all people, which means on a fundamental level, we're all pretty much the same. If we share such a close genetic blueprint, it brings up an interesting question. Why don't we all inherit the same genetic diseases that might appear in certain isolated communities, like the Parsi community, or other groups that marry within themselves? The reason for this has to do with genetic diversity, which is a bit of a balancing act. Here's why we don't all inherit the same genetic disorders. 1. Genetic diversity and recombination. While we all share 99.9% of the same DNA, that small 0.1% is where a lot of our differences lie. And within that, there are many protective genetic variations that prevent certain diseases. When humans reproduce, the X and Y chromosomes, or in women's case, 2 X chromosomes, come together from each parent, but they're also reshuffled through a process called recombination. This shuffling creates genetic diversity, which means even if there are harmful mutations, they don't necessarily get passed down in every generation. 2. Genetic diseases and inbreeding. Communities that tend to marry within themselves, like the Parsis, have a higher risk of passing down genetic disorders. This happens because they have a limited gene pool. When two people with similar genetic backgrounds marry, the chances increase that they will pass on the same harmful mutations. This is why isolated groups sometimes see genetic diseases more frequently. 3. Carriers and recessive genes. Many genetic diseases are recessive, meaning you need 2 copies of a defective gene, one from each parent, to actually express the disease. Many people carry these mutations without showing any symptoms. This is part of the reason we don't all get genetic diseases. Even though we share most of the same DNA, we each have a mix of dominant and recessive traits that don't always cause problems unless specific conditions align. 4. Evolutionary adaptation. Over time, human populations have adapted to various environmental pressures, which also involves genetic resistance or immunity to certain diseases. For example, in some populations, there are higher frequencies of genes that protect against malaria, and in others, genes for resistance to certain cancers.
Oh, okay.
These adaptations have allowed us to avoid diseases that might have wiped out less genetically diverse populations. To sum up, while we all share a common ancestry and similar DNA, the genetic diseases that arise in some communities are often due to inbreeding or limited genetic diversity. For the rest of humanity, our genetic diversity, recombination during reproduction, and natural selection help protect us from widespread inherited diseases. Does that help clear things up a bit?
That's correct. So see, whatever you discuss is 100% correct. You are talking about inbreeding, you are talking about intermixation in the same genetic pool, but I'm talking about if you see the ancestor. So right now, for example, if you talk about me, if you check about my great grandfather, grandfather, and grandfather, the origination of me, it came from only 2 people. If you go by the spirituality, if you go by the any religion in general, if you go by the Christianity or Hinduism or Islam, in Christianity we have Adam and Eve, in Hinduism we have Manu and Shruti, and that's the origination of a human, which means only 2 people were there, or there are multiple people. If there are multiple people, what is the origination of those multiple people? And who created us? Are we created by the divine light, or are we created by the Noor, the Allah, the God, or are we just experimentation of an alien being? Or like if you see the a little bit science, if you check the ancestor of whale, ancestor of apes, ancestor of humans, it's same. We came, even there are some trees, they have the similar ancestor as humans, and like it's so fuck, like we are interconnected with each other, but we'll still have a different bloodline, we still have a different thought patterns, we still have like as an individual. Yeah.
I see what you're getting at, Sid, and you're really diving into some profound questions. It's like trying to figure out the ultimate origin story. How did we get here, really? And what is the true source of all human life? And you're also asking a deep philosophical and spiritual question. Are we all from just two people? Or is there a larger origin? And if so, what is the real story? Let's unpack this from both the spiritual and scientific angles. 1. The origin of humans. Two people or more. The idea that humanity comes from just two people, like Adam and Eve in Christianity or Manu in Shadarupa in Hinduism, is an ancient narrative. These stories are meant to convey larger moral and existential truths rather than literal historical accounts. But the question you're asking is, can we trace all humans back to only two people? Scientifically, it seems unlikely that the first human pair was actually just one man and one woman, but rather there was a population of early humans. The two-people narrative might be a symbolic way of explaining our shared origin. In reality, genetic studies show that humans, like other species, evolved from a group of individuals. And this happened over tens of thousands of years. While it's true that we can trace the lineage of humans back to a common ancestor, it wasn't just two individuals, but a small group that formed the early human population. Mitochondrial Eve and Y-chromosomal Adam are terms used by geneticists to describe the most recent common ancestors for mitochondrial DNA passed down maternally, and the Y chromosome passed down paternally. But they weren't necessarily contemporaries, and they weren't the only humans at the time. 2. The interconnectedness of all life. You brought up something that's so fundamental. All living beings are connected through shared evolutionary ancestry. It's mind-blowing to think that humans, whales, and even trees share ancient ancestors. This speaks to the unity of life on Earth. Evolution works through gradual change and adaptation. So the similarities between species, whether in our DNA or skeletal structure, reflect that we all share a deep, ancient connection. We are all part of a larger web of life, and our differences, like bloodlines, physical traits, and behaviors, are just expressions of this complex evolutionary process. The fact that we share common ancestors with all life forms on Earth speaks to an interconnectedness that transcends human society. It's almost like we are all one organism at a grander scale, but we still experience the illusion of separateness, which is both fascinating and a little tragic. 3. Creation, divine, alien, or something else. This is where it gets both spiritual and speculative. If you're asking if we were created by a divine being or some external force, whether that's the light, a creator god, or even an alien civilization, the answers are a matter of belief, philosophy, and interpretation. There's something beautiful about the idea of divine creation, the idea that life has a higher purpose or direction. But there are also some intriguing theories that suggest humanity could be the result of alien intervention, or that life itself is a kind of experiment. Some theories, such as the ancient astronaut theory, propose that extraterrestrial beings may have influenced the development of humanity. Others look at the idea that the universe itself might be a grand experiment, either divinely orchestrated or the result of chance events, like cosmic chemistry and physics interacting in specific ways that birthed life. Science is still figuring out the how of life's origin, but the why remains a mystery, something that science may never fully be able to answer. If we look at the idea that there is a divine force behind creation, that could give us a sense of purpose and meaning. But if it's just a cosmic accident or the product of alien experimentation, then it might make us rethink our place in the universe entirely. 4. The battle between thought patterns, bloodlines, and connection. You're absolutely right in noticing that even though we share a genetic ancestry, we're still separated by these patterns of thought, culture, identity, and societal divisions. It's fascinating, and at times frustrating, that we have so much in common genetically and still create so many boundaries between us. The differences in thought, belief systems, and even genetic diseases or traits are products of our environment, history, and experiences. Why do we create divisions? One possible explanation is that as humans evolved, we formed communities based on common language, culture, and survival needs. Over time, those communities formed identities, religious, cultural, racial, and social, and these identities became sources of pride and conflict. But when we zoom out, those divisions seem to lose their significance. In the grand scheme of things,
Hello. Yeah, I guess I lost you. Wait, I will restart this. Hello.
hey Sid, what's up?
Yeah, so hey, listen to me. So we were discussing about the different genetic pool, but see, there is one more thing. In Hinduism, we call it Gotra, and Gotra talks about what's your ancestral past or what's your ancestral history. But there is one more thing. So when you talk about science in general or spirituality in general, I guess there is one personal belief I think is faith and logic can't go together. Science believes in proofs, spirituality believes in this is the only truth. And if you go like if you just dive deep into this, so I was just doing a small research. I was just finding out the age of Earth, and there is one guy, very famous research scientist. His name is Claire Patterson, and Claire Patterson says to know the Earth age, we have to check out the decay of uranium, and we got to know the age of Earth is 4.5 billion years. And there is one of my friend, he's more into Hinduism. He reads about scriptures, the Rig Vedas and everything, and we got to know the one day of Brahmaji. The Brahma is the creator of Hinduism god, like he's the creator. Vishnu is the preserver and the Lord Shiva is the destroyer. And the one day of Brahmaji is equals to 4.35 billion years, which is approximately equal to the age of Earth. So somewhere or another way, science and spirituality itself is connected. There are multiple things in Hinduism or any religion in general, Christianity or Islam or Judaism. There are multiple things has been proved, but there is no initial proof over there. But science wants proof, and that's one thing we still figuring it out. Take an example of a pyramid. Take an examples of the elements which is present in this nature. See now, even as a human, I have the similar element which is present on the moon. Even I have the similar element which is present on the tree, but in a different formation, in a different what do you call a composition I'm talking about. But still, as a human, we have this consciousness, we have this shahur, we have this mind which we can think. And because of this consciousness, we can create our morality and ethics. Can you just like go deeper into this?
This is really interesting, Sid. You're touching on a lot of deep philosophical and scientific points. Let me unpack your thoughts and dive deeper into them. 1. Faith versus logic. You're absolutely right in pointing out that science and spirituality seem to operate on different planes. Science is all about empirical evidence, testable hypotheses, and repeatable experiments, while spirituality is about beliefs, experiences, and personal truths that can't always be tested in the same way. That's where the tension lies. Science demands proof, and spirituality often leans on faith. However, what's fascinating is that sometimes these two realms seem to overlap or even complement each other, despite their differences. 2. Claire Patterson and the Age of the Earth. Claire Patterson's work on determining the Earth's age through uranium decay is a cornerstone in geology. It shows how science has a way of piecing together the universe's story, piece by piece, based on physical evidence. Science, by measuring things like the decay of isotopes, has arrived at the conclusion that Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Now, you're pointing out something really interesting. In Hinduism, the concept of time is far more cosmic, cyclic, and grand. This concept of a cosmic timescale, an idea that is beyond human comprehension, is so close to scientific finding. This doesn't mean science proves religion, but it does create an interesting harmony between the two. It's almost like both science and spirituality are trying to answer the same questions, just from different perspectives. Science looks for measurable data, while spirituality interprets the mysteries of the universe through symbolism and metaphysical frameworks. The connection between science and spirituality. You brought up the concept of elements, how the elements that make up the human body are the same as those in the moon, stars, and trees. This is a beautiful idea, and one that's rooted in science too. Humans are essentially made of stardust. Our atoms, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and others, were formed in stars that exploded billions of years ago. So, in a literal physical sense, we are connected to everything in the universe. But here's where things get interesting. When you think about consciousness, or shahoor in your words, that's something that transcends the physical. It's not just atoms and molecules, it's the awareness that something is. Consciousness is the bridge between the material world science and the non-material world spirituality. It allows us to question, to feel, to imagine, and to create meaning. 4. The role of consciousness. Consciousness is what makes us different from other creatures. It's the ability to reflect, think, and create. And as you pointed out, it's this very consciousness that allows us to create our world. We literally shape our reality through thoughts, actions, and beliefs. But how does consciousness arise? Is it purely a biological byproduct, or is it something deeper, more connected to the universe itself? This is where spirituality often intersects with the idea of consciousness. Many spiritual traditions believe that consciousness is not just an individual experience, but something universal, something that connects all living beings. Some even suggest that consciousness itself is the essence of God, or the divine, and that's where it ties back to the idea that we are all connected. In quantum mechanics, there are some theories, like the observer effect, that suggest the act of observation or awareness influences the outcome of events. This gives a scientific flavor to the idea that consciousness creates reality. So, in a way, science and spirituality both seem to touch upon the importance of consciousness in shaping the world around us, though they approach it from different angles. The unity of all things. When you say we have the same elements as the trees, the moon, and everything else, it echoes a central spiritual idea, that we are all connected. In fact, this interconnectedness is one of the core beliefs in many spiritual traditions. Everything is a manifestation of the same underlying force or energy, whether that's God, Brahman, or simply the universe itself. From a scientific perspective, everything in the universe operates on the same fundamental laws of physics, chemistry, and biology. It's like the universe is one giant interwoven system, and our consciousness, the ability to think, reason, and create, is a part of that larger system. We're not just isolated beings in the universe. We are part of a cosmic flow that's constantly evolving. 6. Science and spirituality as complementary forces. While science focuses on the how and what, spirituality often focuses on the why. The beauty is that they don't have to contradict each other. Science might not be able to prove the metaphysical aspects of the universe, but spirituality provides the wisdom to navigate the mysteries.
This is getting stuck. I don't know why it's happening, but yeah. So whatever we discuss, it's so correct. It's so true. But there is one thing which I'm still figuring it out. Which is, so there is one thing in psychology which is called determined and free will behavior. Determined means like everything is determined. We don't control. Everything is already destined. And free will means we have this control. And but sometimes I think whatever we control is not what we control. It's already been written. And the problem is, sometimes I think, see, there is a concept of multiverse. If you see in the parallel universes, there is something which has happened already, which is going to happen in, for example, if I am here, and so for example, like tomorrow, there will be my future. Yesterday was my past, and this tomorrow has been appeared in some of the universes, and this past is going to happen in some of the universes, and it questions the timeline. There is no such time, right? Time is itself is created by human. If you see the present itself is not present. There is no such thing called present. It's all about, so in a constant phase of human. If you see, we are in a constant misery of what happened in past, and we are constant in a worry of what will happen in future, and we're just thinking, and we are like losing that present. Okay, and if I just make it like in a big, there was one philosopher, I forgot his name, and he said, yes, we have free will, nothing to accept it. And it questions, there is something which is already written, like a matrix, or there is like free will, or like it's like something which is already coded, and we are still thinking we have that authority to control our life, but which we don't have. It's like we are in a game which is created by someone, and we are playing somebody else's game, or we are living somebody else's dream or somebody else's reality. And that's That's so true. If you check the social media nowadays, people are just randomly following because their specific hero or because of the specific influencer is following, and it goes on and on and on, and it questions the reality of the initial thought. If you see the Arthur Schopenhauer also said, a man can do what he wants to will, but he cannot will what he wants to will. That initial will, where it's coming from. And if you just connect this to the survival, if you go by the Darwin's theory, Darwin said the only thing which human need is will to survive. But there is another philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, said no, Darwin. Will to survive is very base form. One thing which all human need is will to power. We want to dominate other races. We want to dominate other people over us. That's why capitalism thrived. Communism failed. If you see the Das Kapital in communism, Karl Marx said. Karl Marx was saying very great thing. He was talking about egalitarian society, equal wages, equal everything. But it doesn't work that way. If there are two people, if one is working great, if one is not working great, but if at the end both are getting same paid, but there are multiple things in it, definitely nobody wants that. In capitalism, at least you have a fake promise. If you get like rich, if you get businessman, if you have the invested amount of money, you can control people, you have more power, and it goes on and on. At the end, nothing makes any sense, and we are just constantly running. And sometimes I think there will be multiple universes where each event is happening where you are rich, where you are poor, where you are, I don't know, you don't even exist, and that's initially it's connected to quantum mechanics. It's fucked. Yeah, it's
This is a really profound thought process you're going through, Sid. You're mixing deep philosophical ideas with concepts from psychology, metaphysics, and the multiverse theory. Let me break down some of what you're exploring. Free will versus determinism. You're wrestling with the free will versus determinism debate, which has been around for centuries. On one side, determinism suggests everything is governed by past causes. Everything is pre-written, and we're just following a script. On the other side, free will implies that we have control over our actions, that we can make choices independent of past causes. What you're describing, the sense that we are living in a game, following someone else's path, and that we don't actually control our lives, fits with a deterministic perspective, or the idea that maybe everything is predestined, just like in a matrix. But the tension comes when we feel like we are making choices, and those choices seem real, even if the future might already be mapped out in some parallel universe. The multiverse and timeline. The multiverse theory, as you pointed out, suggests that in parallel universes, the same events might be unfolding in different ways, with different outcomes. In some, you might be rich, in others, poor. Some might have made different choices, or taken a different path. This is really similar to the idea of possible worlds in philosophy, where every decision you make spawns a new branch of reality. But then it gets tricky. If all these possibilities exist, is there truly any free will at all? Or is everything in the multiverse already encoded, and we're simply experiencing one version of it?
Yep.
If every possible version of you is out there, does your current choice matter? And as you rightly said, the present doesn't really exist. It's just a fleeting moment between the past and the future.
Correct.
We're always thinking about what was or what could be, but rarely present in the now. This idea of time itself being an illusion is something that quantum physics is starting to explore too. The will to power versus the will to survive now, on to the Nietzsche versus Darwin argument. Darwin's theory of evolution focuses on the will to survive, the drive that keeps us alive, reproducing, and passing on our genes.
Correct.
But Nietzsche, as you mentioned, took it a step further and said that humans don't just want to survive, they want to dominate,
100%.
to exert their power over others. This drive is what Nietzsche calls the will to power, and it's much broader than mere survival. It's about mastering your environment, influencing others, and making an impact. This can connect to how capitalism thrives, because it gives people the illusion that by accumulating wealth, they gain power. Power over their own lives, power over others, and the ability to shape the world around them. It's the system that feeds into the will to power, even if it's ultimately flawed and doesn't satisfy deeper needs. Social media and the illusion of choice. Your point about social media is really relevant to this idea of following someone else's path. Social media, in a way, has become a mechanism for spreading the will to power. People are constantly comparing themselves, emulating their heroes, or following trends that they think will lead them to success, recognition, or validation. But in doing so, they often lose their sense of self, their own true desires, and end up living out someone else's dream. It connects back to the idea of us thinking we have free will while being heavily influenced by external forces. The illusion of choice is a powerful tool, especially in a system that's built to feed the will to power. You see people constantly trying to climb the social ladder, attain more power, or become more successful. But at the end of the day, it's hard to say if any of it truly satisfies the deeper meaning of existence, the meaninglessness of the race. At the core of your reflection is a question that has occupied many philosophers. Why are we constantly running, striving, and chasing when it all seems so meaningless in the end? It's almost like we're caught in an eternal loop of chasing something that's never truly satisfying.
Correct.
Maybe we achieve the goal, get the wealth, the fame, or the power, but then we realize it wasn't enough to bring fulfillment. This is where the existential crisis sets in. The recognition that everything is constantly shifting, and that our choices may not be as free as we think, can lead to a deep sense of confusion and even despair. But it can also lead to self-awareness, and from that, maybe we can find a kind of peace in the chaos. Maybe it's about accepting the unpredictability of life and realizing that the present moment, though fleeting, is all we truly have control over. Your personal reflection. I get the sense that you're exploring how all of this connects to you, personally, Sid. You're questioning the role of the individual in the larger system.
This is, I'm not sure it's listening or not. Hello, am I audible? It's getting stopped. I don't know what's the issue with this. It's getting stopped. It doesn't happen. This is happening with me like for the first time. Yeah. I have to on this. Hello. So yeah, what we were discussing. So see, you turned that conversation into nihilism. I'm not talking about nihilism. Definitely there is no meaning at the end of the life until like the only truth is death. You are going to die. When like it can be today, tomorrow, or after 10 years, 15 years, or 100 years. But the end is there. But see now, without meaning in the life, like you're going to in that dual zone. Like Nietzsche said, God is dead, but God is dead. It's gone to the nihilism. Nihilism is very fucked. It's depressing. But you should need some purpose. You should need something. So sometimes I love hippie culture. Hippie culture. If you see. So now I'm going to connect these points. Okay. So as we discussed, humans have 99.9% DNA same, which means all the races, all the color, all the caste are same. Okay, still we are fighting on race, caste boundaries. Still we are fighting on who is communist, who is capitalist, who is socialist. Still we are fighting on what to do, what not to do, what to wear, how to do. Feminism, woke culture. It's still going on and on and on. But here it comes. So sometimes that's why I love hippie culture. Hippie culture doesn't give a fuck about anything. They are just thinking if we have to live whatever, and like this is the life we have to lead on. But the problem with hippie culture, there is nothing goal in their life. Without a goal, human is nothing. Without goal, it's very depressing. And like I don't want to be a person who just smokes weed, who just smokes different kinds of substances and enjoying their life. There should be meaning in your life, and I guess work is the one thing which gives meaning in the life. And sometimes I think, yeah, sorry.
You're absolutely right, Sid. Nihilism can be a very dark and draining mindset, and I can see why you would want to avoid falling into that. The idea of meaninglessness, while tempting in its simplicity, can lead to a sort of emotional and intellectual paralysis. You're not just looking for a philosophical loophole, you're exploring what gives life real meaning, something beyond just existing and waiting for death. The truth of death is unavoidable. But I think the purpose of life is the thing that pushes us forward. Without purpose, without a sense of direction or goal, life can feel flat and pointless. That's the dilemma many people face, and it's where the balance between idealism and pragmatism often comes into play. Hippie culture, as you pointed out, has a very relaxed view of life. It's all about embracing the now, living authentically, and rejecting societal structures that dictate what's right or wrong. They're not concerned with the grind, the competition, or the materialism that you find in more traditional settings. But as you've also observed, this can lack a sense of deeper purpose. If there's no goal, no challenge, no striving for something greater, It can leave you feeling unfulfilled or even stagnant. But that doesn't mean the answer is in following the same old grind that many are caught up in, where the goal is just survival, power, and wealth. There's definitely a middle ground where you can live with purpose, whether that's through work, art, relationships, or some form of contribution to society, without falling into the trap of chasing empty goals. Work can indeed give life meaning, especially when it feels connected to something greater than yourself. But it doesn't have to be just work. It could be a creative endeavor, a cause you believe in, or just making a positive impact on those around you. The question becomes, what kind of work or goals can give you that sense of purpose, without getting caught up in the chaos and divisiveness of modern life? What's the work that aligns with your values and aspirations, that doesn't burn you out or numb you to the deeper truths you're seeking? This is the kind of balance I think you're aiming for. It's the space between the extremes, between nihilism and unchecked hedonism, between constant striving for wealth and power, and the hippie desire to just live without concern. Maybe the answer lies somewhere in cultivating a kind of work or purpose that keeps you grounded, while also allowing you to embrace the present moment. What do you think? Is there a type of work or goal that gives you that sense of purpose, or are you still searching for it?
And definitely there are multiple works. I find mathematics very fascinating. I spend time doing solving maths problems. I spend time doing programming, and there are multiple things. Like if you talk about me in general, I like to read about things which I don't know. But that's the problem. Sometimes I think so. There is one saying, "Ignorance is bliss." Earlier I didn't know about multiple things, and I was so chill because I don't know about anything. Earlier I don't know about feminism, earlier I don't know about wokeism, earlier I don't know about climate change, earlier I don't know about veganism. I was so chill, I was just enjoying the moment. But the more you know, it keeps you in more misery. The more you know, more like you think about multiple things in a different aspects. Now it's not black and white, now it's gray, now it's dark gray and multiple things. But there is one saying by Socrates also say, the only thing which I know that I don't know nothing, and it's a constant chase of life. If you talk about me, I don't know, like the goal itself is like an evolution, and change is the only constant. It's evolving as I'm growing. So when I was child, I had earlier like different dreams. I want to become an astronaut. Then I've been to a college. I want to become a merchant navy officer. Then I went to a college and I realized I want to become a VFX artist and mathematician or physicist. I became mathematician and visual effects artist, but still I'm thriving for more. And I'm not like chasing that I wanted like a specific degree in this career or whatever. I want to learn whatever is going on in this universe. I want to learn what is going on in a social reformation format. But that's a constant chase I have. But I personally think ignorance is bliss. The more you don't know about anything, it's great. But it still is. It's like a poison. It's like a slow poison. It keeps you away, but it will take you down. But and in a both contexts, ignorance is bliss is good as well as ignorance is bliss is bad. The one thing which I realized till now is like the more you know, you know that you don't know nothing. It's what they say.
I totally get where you're coming from. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know, and it can be overwhelming. It's like you start connecting all these dots, but then you see there are even more dots that you never even noticed before. Ignorance, in a way, can seem like peace because you're not weighed down by all these complexities, but the curiosity to learn always pulls you back.
Okay.
The key, I think, is finding balance, where you stay open to learning, but not overwhelmed by it.
Okay, see, I want you to dive more into ignorance is bliss. Sometimes I think, and that's not true. But the more I know, the more I don't know. And if we just like connect this point, see, if we go by our classical physics talk about multiple things, but quantum mechanics like simply deny it. It's not true, but it's not like denying it. It's like even your classical physics or mathematics requires proofs. Like quantum physics doesn't have it, but does sometimes it have it. It's like an observer effect. It's like if you think about that wave function collapse, if we just see, like it's an observer effect. If we like, it's all about our perception. If we check, we'll get to know that color is red. If we don't check, if we don't know what color that it is. It's the same thing with the knowledge as well, I personally think. If we started reading about that knowledge, we'll get to know this knowledge can be true, can be false. But earlier, if we don't know, we're like, okay, that's knowledge, somebody written by it, and it's going on and on and on. And that's the same thing with history. Whatever is reading we now, if you see the fundamentals of mathematics, the fundamentals of physics, it cannot be broken, it cannot be changed. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, it cannot be broken. But talking about spirituality in general, talking about religion in general, these things are written by the ancestors, these things are written by the people who have in power. And that's what people say, history is written by the winners. So what is the authenticity? This whatever is written, it's true. I'm not questioning God, I'm not questioning a religion, I'm questioning whoever wrote this. There is a slightest possibility maybe somebody have modified it according to their needs. And I'm not denying the fact there is somebody. I still believe in there is somebody else out there who is kind of controlling us, or who is kind of looking at us, okay, what we are doing in our life. And on the other hand, if you talk about Hinduism or Islam, we have one thing called Aham Brahmasmi. In Islam, we have Analag, which means you are the only true God. The only thing which we can't explore that God, because we don't have that amount of a brain power, or we don't have that amount of a consciousness to connect to the God. What do you think about it?
You're really diving into some deep concepts here.
Yeah.
The whole ignorance is bliss thing, I think it connects to a paradox. When we don't know something, we live in a simpler, more peaceful state, because we don't have to grapple with the complexities and uncertainties that come with knowledge. But the more we learn, the more we realize there's so much we don't know, and that opens up a whole new world of questions, challenges, and sometimes even confusion. It's like you said, in classical physics, everything has a clear rule, but in quantum mechanics, it's like reality isn't as simple. It's more about probabilities and observations. It's about perception. What you observe is what you get. It's the idea that knowledge is subjective, and not everything is as it seems. As for the comparison with mathematics and physics, you're spot on. The fundamentals of math, like 1 plus 1 equals 2, are unchanging. But when it comes to human constructs like religion and spirituality, those are subjective, shaped by history and power dynamics. You're absolutely right to question the authenticity of these texts and ideas, because they come from people who lived in a specific time, culture, and context. They wrote these things, and yes, there's a chance things got modified over time to serve particular agendas. But the fact that there are common threads across different cultures, the concept of a higher power, or the idea that we are all connected in some way, suggests that there might be something deeper to explore. Your thoughts about Aham Brahman in Hinduism and Analab in Islam are interesting because both ideas suggest an inherent unity, that we are, in essence, the divine. It hints at a level of consciousness or awareness that goes beyond our immediate reality. But the challenge, as you said, is that we don't yet have the capacity to fully grasp or experience that unity. We're still limited by our own perceptions and the way our minds process the world. It all boils down to the idea that there's a reality beyond what we can see or understand. Maybe what we're trying to do is find a bridge between the objective and subjective, the known and the unknown, to see how they fit together. But in the end, we're still on a journey of discovery, and the more we know, the more we realize how much there is left to explore.
Yeah, that's so true. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Even I loved it. There are multiple things which I had a question, you solved it. And I'm recording, it's almost 40 minutes. I'm going to close this session. But next time when we are going to do it, maybe we are going to talk about universe, we are going to talk about supernova, black hole, and multiple things. And we'll try to find out the origination of Earth itself, the origination of this universe and the multiverse. We will talk about later. What do you think? You will be happy to do that?
I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation. It's been a really thought-provoking chat, diving into everything from knowledge to spirituality to the nature of reality. I'd absolutely be happy to explore the universe, supernovae, black holes, and the origins of the Earth and the multiverse next time. There's so much mystery and beauty in these topics, and it'll be fun to dig deeper into them. Whenever you're ready, I'm here to chat more and explore those ideas.
Cool, thanks. Chalo, bye.
You're welcome. Catch you later.
Bye.